I ask the secretary to call the roll.
Ruth, Curtis,
Present.
Gilbert,
Present.
Hightower,
Present.
Odell, present, Souter,
Present.
Sharma,
Yes.
Simmons,
Present.
Cedric.
Present. Let the record show that a quorum has been established. Again, this is we have some people by Zoom, and Luke, the governor has extended its declaration to allow us to perform have this meeting where part in person and part by Zoom. That's correct. Except I don't recognize the person at the upper right hand corner of that. Who is that? Oh, is that you, Chris Mahoney?
It is.
Well, he was under the weather, and I have Paul has given me a bunch of mints, and I got water because over Thanksgiving holiday my grandkids gave me a cold, but I'm on the back side of that. So if my voice doesn't give out, which if it does, then Dr. Hightower, you got to step in. But, tell him what I told you earlier. Okay, there will be a public question and comments portion available at today's meeting that lasts up to 15 minutes total. 3 minutes per speaker. Are there any persons who wish to speak today?
I have no speakers.
Jennifer, you don't want to say anything? All right. The first item is the presentation of the SIU System Marketing and Communication Plan. President Mahoney, would you like to introduce this item?
Yes, I would. So we'll talk over the next couple of days about a number of ways I think we're working better together as a system, coordinating things better. One of the areas we've been working on really before the strategic plan was even finalized was getting our marketing communications folks meeting more regularly together, talking about how we can get our story out in a more coordinated fashion across the system. And they've done a great job so far and have done a number of things just really in the last year, but have plans for the future. And so I'm going to turn it over to John Charles, who from the system level has been coordinating the meetings of this group to talk about what our plans are for the future from a marketing communications perspective.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's great to be here. Can we pull up our PowerPoint presentation? So with Steve is pulling this up, as the president indicated, over the last year, the marketing and communications directors, we've all been working together on cooperative efforts where we can share our work and share the good news of the system. This was reinforced through the strategic plan, that process that we have gone through and are in the process of implementing. And at our last board meeting, Courtney Breckenridge was there to report on that portion of the strategic plan, and there was a discussion led by Dr. Hightower to talk more about what we're doing cooperatively, what we're doing together to advance the system. So just hit this space bar. Okay. To not only advance the good work that each of the campus marketing and communications teams are doing, but also what we're doing cooperatively. So we'll go through this brief PowerPoint presentation that won't seem to advance. Page down. I'm hitting page down. All right. There we go. So the members of this team are the marketing communications directors and leaders. Rakisha from the School of Medicine and Megan from SIUE are the co-chairs of the team that is in charge of implementing the marketing and communications portion of the strategic plan. Jim Potter from Carbondale, Nick Niemer from SIU Alumni Affairs and myself round out that initial team. And we met probably about a month ago to talk about what we can do together to advance the good news of the system. And I think what we came out of from the strategic plan was obviously to maximize our community effort by working together to utilize our collective strengths. And our objective, as we've said, as Dr. Hightower talked about at the last board meeting, how do we tell our story? How do we get the good news, the good word out there? And so we are working together to do that. And as we met at that meeting, we met in Edwardsville. Rakisha and I drove down together, and I have to give credit to her. She said, this really is historic, that we are all working in a way that we've come out of our silos where we are spreading the good news in our area to talk about how we can spread the good news beyond the geographic areas of the Edwardsville, Carbondale, and School of Medicine campuses. So we have set together a plan with both short and long-term goals where we can implement this over the next few years in coordination with the work of the strategic plan. So some of the things that we talked about, what we can do long-term and both short-term, include collaborating for joint news releases distributed by the system. One of the things that we have not been doing in the past is taking shared information or shared news from both campuses, packaging it together and shipping it out to not only the media, but to our stakeholders, so they know what's going on. So that includes our elected officials, that includes community leaders. And the example that is really a little bit hard to read here is information that came from both campuses.
You keep saying both campuses. Do you mean all campuses?
All campuses. All campuses. Well, in this case, Carbondale and Edwardsville, both were 2 of 4 public universities in the state this year to be named military-friendly campuses by Military Times, which is a great thing that they've done. So they're both promoting that, but why can't we promote it in a broader area on behalf of the system? So that's one of the things that we're going to look to do more of. We're also going to work together to contribute and share content on system social media channels. Carbondale, Edwardsville School of Medicine each have great social media outlets that they work with. From the president's office, we have the president's Facebook page and his Instagram page. So we're going to look to combine more of what the campuses are doing so we can share that on his page as well. And we are finding out that there are easier ways to do this beyond what we're doing now. Instead of looking for something, copying it, kind of formatting it for my purposes, we've discovered that there are computer programs that will allow us to do this much easier, much faster. There are also software programs like Cision that would help monitor the news that comes out of the SIU system. So as board members, each of you at the end of the week receives a PDF of all the news that has gone on that we've collected from the president's office. And that's Brad in my office going through every day, finding all the good stories that come from SIU's campuses, packaging it, sending it out. We've learned that we can use this software system, and it's currently being used on both campuses in Edwardsville and Carbondale and School of Medicine to make this job a lot easier. So it's a resource that we want to add to the president's office, and we're looking to do that Actually, we've already done it. We've added that login for us. So
John, who else gets the news clips besides the board members?
We share
That you
that.
guys send out?
We share that with you all, with folks who are in the system staff. So it's pretty much an internal delegation. So Luke, Garish, Kim Labonte.
But it's just an internal.
It's an
It
it's an
doesn't go to
internal.
legislators or community leaders or anything like that.
No, not at this point, no. Again, we're gonna look to share our resources and bring the president's office up to a greater capability when it comes to social media, which is very important, which is something that we know that our elected officials follow. And we're also going to test the power of the system, or the messaging, the power of one, as we work with more individuals, as we communicate with elected officials. And I think over the last couple of years under this president, we've done a really good job of working with our elected delegation to make sure that they know that we're together, that we are one system, and that we're cooperating together, which is an important thing. And then we're also in the process of looking at how we need to rebrand the system and what it would cost. The one system, many locations, statewide impact, which was retooled probably about 2015, is something we've been using, but then the SIU with the Rising Sun has been something that has been around for years and years, way before me. So, we want to look at, is there something that will better show the cooperation, the coordination between the three campuses? So as we work on a long-term plan, here are the short-term goals that we have identified that we are going to be working on. The first, to identify individuals beyond our small core team who we can bring on to support and use as a sounding board to expand this greater communication on behalf of the system. And we're in the process of making contact with those individuals to bring them on board for that project. We're also going to meet monthly and quarterly with the larger work group to talk about what we're doing, to assess what we've been doing, look at what we're doing good, look where we need to improve, and how we can do a better job of telling the good news of the system. Part of that is identifying our strengths, our resources, and our opportunities through a participant survey. So we have this group set. We're going to come back to them and ask them for their opinion to get an idea of what they think, where we're at. I mean, we are in our silos. We know what we're doing, but we need to get an idea beyond that, how other people view the work that's going on, how they view our outreach, and that'll be an important part of that. So that gets us through to the end of the year. Then we get into March, where we're going to do a deeper dive to assess our collective resources and our collaborative channels to cooperate and to finalize a charge and a mission for this work group. So we are all working from the same page. A little bit further down the line, as we get into next year, the middle and latter part of the year, we're going to basically spend the summer going through these 8 different issues, identifying our priorities, our resources, prioritizing our key audience members, which we know, but we are certainly open to improving upon, finalizing a message, identifying how we're going to meet those objectives, identifying our engagement and event opportunities. So for example, for the strategic plan, one of the things that we had identified are joint activities. And we were able to restart one this year in July when we had our joint alumni reception in Springfield after the board meeting, which was very successful. We were very happy with the turnout of that. We're also, of course, going to establish our metrics and launch the plan. So we're very excited to move forward on this. It is, again, we've all worked together and worked cooperatively together, but we haven't taken that to the next level. And I think that was your charge from that last meeting. Figure out how we're going to do that.
That is correct. I think this is a very good start. But you always ask the question, okay, what's coming after that comment? But as I look at what you said, this is a good start. But one of the critical pieces to all of this is our strategic plan, our overall strategic plan. We have a great strategic plan. And again, I'm not speaking for the board. I don't speak for the board, but I'm sure every trustee would say to President Mahoney, to our chancellors, right on down the line, you guys have done a great job of putting an active strategic plan in place, not a passive one, but an active one. Now, as I look at this and as I talk to people, and you know, they do talk to us, sure, okay. One of the key stakeholders, and I'm going to use the term that you laid out here. You talked about charge and mission. You talked about the strategic plan. You talked about the stakeholders. Well, to me, and this is from the education background and having sat where you guys are sitting today. One of our key stakeholders group would be faculty, staff, and students. Faculty, staff, and students. We can go out and we can tell our story all we want to, but if those people who are in, and I'm going to say that silo as you're talking about, say at SIUE, aren't getting this and believing it, they're telling another story that is not coordinating with where we are. Okay? Mm-hmm. Let me just give an example. We support 100%, and I will stand absolute tomorrow, today, going forward, that we have a great administrative team in place now. We can't say that was always the case. And when you get that great administrative team, and I'm going to talk about not the good-looking Ed, but the other Ed here, you know, he made a very outstanding point. We gotta do everything we can to keep those individuals. Well, when I talk about communication and when we talk about making sure that we're telling our story, we can't leave it to a group over here to take away from the positive efforts that we made to put for a long time a good administrative team in place. This communication and telling our story has to be such that we're going to get this out there beforehand and tell the story about the great leadership as to why we did what we did, why we went to our foundation to work with us unfunded, to keep these people in place, to keep us moving in a forward direction. So if we're not telling that story, guess what? Now, the other group out there is gonna be saying, well, we're gonna use this as a way to garner more money for our group, our employees, whatever. And please, I don't want anybody to say that I am in any way taken away from the important role that each and every employee plays. We have a great group of faculty and staff and employees within the SIU system. But let's tell the story and make sure that we are talking to the faculty and staff, students, about these kinds of things. And as you guys are putting this team together, that needs to be a priority, making sure that we start this communication internally. So they can go out and say, yo, I'm seeing a change. They are communicating with us. So no criticism. I'm saying, this is what we were talking about. I was talking about the last time. This is the next step that we need to incorporate into your planning, into your thought process, into your delivery, execution, and that finished product.
And one of the things that we did talk about in our meeting and obviously more work that we need to do on is not only communicating to those external people, but communicating internally. So yes, that is something that is part of the plan.
John, I would say too, what's really important about what you just offered in terms of paying attention to those internal stakeholders is if we don't measure the gap between what we're promoting and saying as leaders, administrators, and communicators versus what's being said by our students, our staff, we have this credibility gap that is really, really hard to overcome. So there are methods and strategies that we can do to make sure we're measuring that gap so that we can get better alignment. There are brand DNA surveys that are essentially internal surveys to make sure you understand what your internal stakeholders think about the brand, and then think about where you want to go and really try to have a plan that keeps them on the front line as ambassadors, right?
Well, why didn't you tell me you were going to say that? Take 20 minutes.
Did we not get input from the internal stakeholders when we were putting together the strategic plan?
Yeah, yes.
So we need to let them know that we use their input in developing this, so they can feel like they have some skin in the game here.
Right.
So, Dr. Sharma?
Yeah, I would like to add, I completely agree with the trustee Hightower that internal stakeholders are very important. But the point somehow we need to bring across is how they are better off in the system than individually. Okay, that thing need to be conveyed to the faculty staff on both and students on both campuses. That is very important. Once they understand, then they will be. Otherwise, this old mental thinking is going on.
Sure.
Yes.
So everybody's talked a lot about, beginning with Dr. Hightower, about internal stakeholders. Do you guys have a social platform that you can communicate with everybody on, where the president could put out a video and everybody can see it with their own identification?
We do.
Okay,
We do.
and what is that?
It's different on both campuses and
I mean, something where every single faculty person, staff person, or student have their own, where they can post and then they can see information that's out there.
oh, okay. Like an intranet. Do you mean?
Sort of, or workplace.
Okay, workplace.
Let me bring on one. If it goes in the email or platform.
Not email, I said social platform.
Yeah, social platform, or so not many faculty and staff will look at it. If it goes through their dean's office. And somehow, then it catches more eyes. Okay, that is the way it used to be. Yeah,
In this
faculty.
environment, you want to be able to communicate with every single person in real time. And you can do that on a social platform. I mean, they're out there. You didn't know if the university use them. I don't know how I could communicate with 10,000 employees if I didn't have access to
Right.
that platform. And that doesn't mean each campus can have their own, but then they can all see the big one.
So, and each campus has a daily email, so here in Carbondale,
I mean,
it's
email, I
SIU
want
Today.
social.
Okay.
Put a video out, I mean, those are things to think about. The second question, if I could ask one more, is I followed all this until you brought up rebranding. And I need to hear a little bit more about what you're thinking of rebranding, or you would come back to us, because that could be multi-million-dollar endeavor, and we just want to understand what you mean by rebranding,
Right.
because I assume you're not gonna get rid of the Salukis and the Cougars.
Oh, gosh, no, it's a way that we can retool our logo to show SIU Carbondale, SIU Edwardsville, SIU School of Medicine. So for example,
I'm not arguing, and I don't have any problem with it, but if you start changing logos and changing.
Right.
that, I mean, we're talking,
oh,
every building's got, I mean, we're talking.
it would not be something to that extent,
Okay.
no.
No, I think maybe people had,
I was just
Sorry,
gonna
I
say,
just-
it's a way that we can communicate all of them in totality. So if you think of the University of Illinois system and how they've done it, make
Yeah.
sure we're addressing it in a similar capacity. So when people know that we're talking about the Southern Illinois University system, that is comprised of Carbondale, Edwardsville School of
Love
Medicine.
Love it. Great idea.
So like, for example, one of the things that we talked about was, and I'm sorry you won't be able to see it. But well, there's the video. So one of the things that we talked about, I thought it was on that news release. Was at the bottom of some of our news releases or publications, putting you know, the SIU Carbondale, for example, is a member of the SIU system. Or Edwardsville or the School of Medicine, where we add that neckline block that highlights that. And then working together on videos like this. So this was a video that we started with in July that we showed at the Board of Trustees meeting. And Jim and his folks have helped rework. It follows a strategic plan, talks about our priorities, but shows the power of the system. So that is the work that we are engaged in. Thank you for letting us come and present and for jumpstarting this conversation. And giving us the time today perfect day to sit around the table and talk about what we're doing and what you'd like to see.
Any other questions of John or his team?
And we have our new communication director with us on Zoom today. Is that right?
No, sir, actually, she starts on December 7th.
Okay.
Tedra
okay,
Tolson will be with us as our executive director.
Holding her in
Okay,
to the group.
I think this is great.
Yeah.
This is
Is
We
that
are
a communication director for the whole system
No, for Edwardsville.
or Edwardsville? Okay. Question, I don't know, I guess each campus has their own PR person. That does, is there somebody at the medical school that does PR?
Oh, yeah, Keisha.
Oh, there she is. because there is, and I don't know who, there's not almost a night that goes by on a local TV station, WSIL, that there's not a news story about SIU. And so I don't know which, like I've lived here all my life, been on the board previous to my reappointment, and I rarely saw that. So whatever the Carbondale person's doing, and I assume that the Edwardsville, we're feeding stuff to the, because we need to not only tell our story about the system, but we need to tell the story to the community, what we're doing, because that helps with recruitment.
Absolutely.
And really, there is not a night that goes by that there's not a news story about SIU. And I don't know what it is. It's a tougher market in the Metro East area, and I don't know about, but the medical school is doing wonderful things up in the Springfield area, and those people need to know what we're doing.
Jennifer helps us with that too. Give her a shameless plug. Yeah, she touches that.
Well, don't you agree? Almost every night or something.
There is, yeah.
And I don't know, because there's always something going on all the campuses. There's always something going on, and we need to let the people know that we're here. But that's I'm very pleased to see that.
John, your team's got their work cut out for them.
We do, but it's a great team. And I would say, much like the comment that you made about the leadership that we have on our campuses, I think the leadership of our communications and marketing folks is pretty stellar. And we've got a group that we haven't had that has really come together, and they're doing great things.
Sean, what do you need from the board to push this thing out?
I think we're gonna give us some time to continue to build this plan and figure out the ways that we're gonna execute it. I think that we will probably come back to this board and probably ask for some help. Either, and I haven't spoken to the president about this, so I don't want to get out in front of him. But there are some resources that we're gonna need, to purchase some software to make things easier, all the way up to other resources that will come out of this planning process. So I would say, can you give us a few months and let us develop this plan some more and come back and sit around the table and have another great conversation like we're having now and lay that out.
You laid out the dates.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
President Mahoney, anything else?
No, I just want to say a couple quick things. Thanks to John and his team for putting this presentation together. I think one of the things you just hit on, Chair Gilbert, which is really important to emphasize, is I think each of the locations is doing a good job of promoting what's happening on their campuses. What we're really talking about is how do we expand that system wide and actually get better benefits for everybody, so everybody wins by collaborating and working better together. And that's really what our goal is from the system-wide perspective. And I think, Dr. Hightower's questions on the stakeholders and internal versus external, I think that's where this all gets more complicated. We have internal, external stakeholders, and we have to kind of massage the message a little bit different and use different platforms for each group. And sometimes that's where I think as board members, you can help us with getting out the good news stories, depending on what message it is and which group we're trying to hit. So I think there's lots of ways that we can all be part of the communication plan moving forward. And I like Trustee Curtis's questions about the rebranding. Fortunately, we don't have our brand on many things, so that this isn't a hard one from a system level. But I've said from the beginning, I think when you look at our brand, it just doesn't tell you much about SIU, nor does it connect to Edwardsville, Carbondale, or the School of Medicine. And so I think thinking about a different way of presenting it that would better represent the system as a whole. It's actually interesting, even on my gown that I wear for commencement, I have the colors of Edwardsville, Carbondale, and the School of Medicine on my gown. Just as kind of bringing those three together. And we really don't do that with our logo at all. So I think there's some ways we could change that. And again, this would be a relatively inexpensive as inexpensive as a rebranding can be, but that's kind of what we're envisioning, I think, there.
Okay, any questions of President Mahoney? If not, thank you, President Mahoney. Next, we will close the meeting and go into executive session. I move to close the meeting to the public for the purpose of considering pending, probable, or imminent court proceedings against or on behalf of the board, appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, and review of executive session minutes. The relevant sections of the Open Meetings Act statute that allow for the closed session are 5 ILCS 120/2, C, 1, 11, and 21. Do I have a second to the motion?
So
Been moved and seconded. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Brew. Curtis,
Yes.
Gilbert,
Yes.
Hightower,
Yes.
Odell. Yes. Salger,
Yes.
Sharma,
Yes.
Simmons,
Yes.
Tedrick.
Yes.
Okay, the motion is passed. We will now proceed into the president's conference room for the executive session. We'll be coming back out here for the remainder of the board meeting.
So how long we don't have public comments tomorrow?
Not yet. Nobody.
No meeting. It's not.
a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Second.
Madam Secretary, call the roll.
Brew. Curtis.
Yes.
Gilbert.
Yes.
Hightower.
Yes.
Odell.
Yes.
Salger.
Yes.
Sharma. Mr. Sharma. Simmons. Cedric.
Yes. Motion carries.
Nice
Adjourned till
hat.
tomorrow morning.
Nice hat.
Okay.
Do we turn back?
All room?
Yes, sir.
Uh-huh.
Yep.